How's everyone doing? Today I got a pretty awesome mail day. A bunch of stuff came in today. A bunch of Blu-rays, some CDs, and cassette tapes as well. There's the Blu-rays and here's the CDs and cassettes. If you've seen any of these or listened to any of these, definitely let me know what you think of them. First up, I'll go ahead and show you the CDs and cassettes. I won a contest on Instagram. I'm all about that gram life. So if you're on Instagram, check me out. I'll put my Instagram link down below with all my other social media links. I post on there pretty frequently. I post way more than I do on here. I post, everything from when I'm eating, drinking, watching, recent pickups, things like that I usually don't get around to putting on here for a while. But there was a contest for this alone. It's from Lakeshore Records. And I'm a big fan of the end of tour, the movie. It really surprised me because I'm not the biggest fan of the actors in here. And it was cassette tape, which is actually relevant to the movie itself. And on here was a conversation between director James Ponsoldt and composer Danny Elfman. And then on the back there's a sampler of the soundtrack as well from Danny Elfman. I was really getting it for the conversation because, again, I loved the movie. I thought it was just one of the better movies of 2015. In the beginning, it was one of my favorites of the year. Now it pushes out of my top 10, probably top 15 for me. Really enjoy the heck out of it. So I reposted it on there, and they said if you repost it, they'll throw in something extra. And I wasn't expecting all the extra that they threw in. This is really cool. I actually have to find my cassette player now because I do want to hear the conversation on here. I think that's awesome. Big fan of the film, like I said, so I'm all about the special features and things like that when it's a movie that I really enjoy. I know I have a old yellow Walkman I used to rock all the time, and I have a cassette radio I used to have in high school. I put Beastie Boys' License to Ill in there. That would wake me up every morning. So I gotta find that. I have both of those in a box somewhere. I really want to check this out. Next up, they sent a sampler cassette tape out from Lakeshore Records with a bunch of different artists and songs on there. Trying to see some people. Benjamin Gibbard, Ben Queller, Selena Gomez, Trace Adkins, Huey Lewis and the News. So there's a bunch of variety right there, eclectic mix. So nice little sampler right there. Summer mixtape is what it's called. And then the CDs, man, Bear McCreary is just killing it lately. He's been around for a while doing TV show scores, but recently he's been doing some movies. I really loved his score for 10 Cloverfield Lane, which I just put my review up for that. So check that out if you haven't already. I really enjoyed that movie and the score especially, and he did the soundtrack right here for The Boy, which I wasn't a huge fan of the film overall. I thought it was just about average. We've seen the doll thing before, and even the twist we've seen before, but that's pretty cool. And I love the look to these CDs as well. A lot of effort was put into it with the disc artwork, the artwork inside, and then right here, you pull it out, and there's like a little booklet and stuff like that. So that is pretty cool. The CD for The Boy, or the soundtrack for The Boy, the soundtrack right there, CD for Nightcrawler. Great performance right there from Jake Gyllenhaal. And again, right there is the CD. There's all the tracks in the back. Music by James Newton Howard. The artwork, and then you pull it out in here, and there's another little booklet right there. So that's pretty cool. I love the design for these CD cases. This isn't something I remember seeing when I was younger and CDs were big. They all came in like ones like this, which, again, this is another movie that I loved. I remember loving the soundtrack to it. I have it on DVD. I really want to upgrade it to Blu-ray. This one was just really atmospheric, and I love the mystery to it and great performances. And I knew something was up, and I knew somebody was involved, but I didn't see that twist coming. Like the big twist of who did it, I pretty much suspected, but the other part of it kind of threw me off. But great performances in here, and this is the soundtrack. So pretty cool they threw this in. It comes with a booklet and all that good stuff. And then, oh, this one actually has, this is a full legit soundtrack. You've got let's see, a New Order, Psychedelic Furs on here, Depeche Mode, Tears for Fears. So, Soft Cell, Pet Shop Boys, Love and Rockets, Everything But the Girl. So a fantastic soundtrack right here. And the rest of these I think were mostly just scores, essentially. And then this one, I don't remember if I even knew this was out, Sharknado 3. I know it's such a cheesy, fun franchise now. They'll probably make a fourth one. So this is the soundtrack right there. So that is really cool that they hooked up all these extras. Lakeshore Records, check them out if you haven't. Check them out on Instagram. Again, I was just going in there for this, which I thought was really cool, and I like the fact that it was a cassette because it worked. Because when he was interviewing him, you know, he was taping and stuff, and there's actually a quick scene after the credits, I believe, where it shows Jason Segel talking to the cassette tape. So I thought that was actually pretty interesting, and I like that little scene. Next up are all the Blu-rays. Some interesting, good Blu-rays right here. But, you know, it's not one of my huge hauls, but I thought this was kind of, you know, to do a mail day for it. I like doing this, and then when I review them, or actually view them all, I'll do a proper review for them. First up is Justice League vs. Teen Titans. And this is the deluxe edition with the Robin figure gift set right here. And this is limited to 57,000. I have 117. You know, 57,000 isn't that limited, honestly. And it did came a little busted up right there on the sides, but overall, this actually really surprised me. The animation was great. A lot of fantastic voice actors were in here. Rosario Dawson. John Bernthal plays the Punisher, who's amazing as the Punisher, the Daredevil Netflix show. A bunch of recognizable voices in here, and they all did a great job. And I thought this was actually much darker than I was expecting. Basically, this character Trigon, who's like a devil character, comes to Earth, and essentially they have these other like demon spirits that possess members of the Justice League, and the Teen Titans have to fight them off. And I really enjoy this. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about it. I'm going to do a proper unboxing review for it. Next up is Cherry Falls. Scream Factory releasing a lot of great films, horror films recently. This one, alright, first off, Brittany Murphy. I've never been a big fan of her acting. I know there's people that love her and love her acting, and I never thought she was a great actor. In this movie too, it just seems like, I don't know, I don't want to speak ill of her because she's passed, but it seemed like, it just reminded me of certain movies that I saw Robert Downey Jr. with when he was younger and he was battling addiction and things like that. She just seemed so out of it in this movie. It just seemed like she was kind of spaced out. You know, I don't know what was going on in her life at the time. I don't want to, you know, say anything there, but just her acting wasn't great here. And then it almost seemed like a comedy in certain aspects of it. Even at the ending, there's a scene with, I don't want to talk about it too much, but the killer, when you see the killer, I'm like, this... You know, it reminds me of another movie. I don't want to talk about it because it'll give spoilers away, but this seemed more comedic and almost parodying slashers. But I did like the aspect of it. There's a slasher killing off virgins. So it's kind of, you know, tilting the whole slasher genre on its head, because usually the virgins are the final girl, and they're usually killing the sluts, essentially, the people having sex and doing drugs and things like that. And the cast in here is pretty decent. The supporting cast, rather. I'm not, like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Brittany Murphy's acting in here, but there's a lot of recognizable faces here. Michael Biehn was fantastic. I think he was one of the best parts of this movie by far. And there were some good tense moments in here, some really good cinematography and soundtrack too. But again, at times it just felt goofy, especially with the killer, and then I didn't like Brittany Murphy's acting in it. Some really good special features here, tons of special features. So if you're a fan of the movie, I think you'll definitely appreciate that. And some great artwork. I remember trying to find this on DVD for ages because I did hear a lot of people talk highly about it. And I don't know if it was out of print or what. I think that was the deal. And so I'm happy this came out on Blu-ray. Again, I like certain aspects of it, but other aspects I don't. I'm like kind of mixed on it. And next are 5 titles from Twilight Time right here. And I'm loving Twilight Time, what they're doing. They're putting out some great releases, great films. They are a little bit more expensive than some of your average ones, but rightfully so, much like Criterion Collection, Code Red, things like that. Their ones are a little bit more limited. They're not just mass-produced out there, so it's going to cost a little bit more, but usually deservedly so as far as their releases. They could have a little bit more special features. That's my only criticism, but otherwise, for a fan of cinema, I think you will appreciate what they're doing here. Born Free, there's only 2 that I've seen of the ones from Twilight Time so far. Born Free was a really good kind of like semi-documentary style based on the adaptation of Joy Adamson's best-selling book, basically about her story, about her and her husband who raised this lion cub, Elsa. And basically, it was actually, some of the shots in here were amazing as far as the wildlife and the lion and the way that it acted. I don't know if it was trained or if it was actually naturally like that, but it was like a puppy. It was following them around, you know, hanging out with them, sleeping with them, and jumping up on their car with them. And there was some just beautiful cinematography, and it was just really heartfelt as well. Basically them, you know, putting the lion out there to the wild, which was kind of hard to do because they raised it for a good portion of its life, so it wasn't used to finning for itself and things like that. But very heartfelt, and definitely one I would recommend. I'm going to talk more in depth about this in a future update. Next up is a slasher, or giallo, my apologies, a giallo with a gothic setting. I don't know too much about this one. I've never heard of it before. La Bambola di Satana. Something Satan? I don't know what Bambola is. Satan's Doll. It was from 1969. And there's a black-gloved murderer, a ghost, and a dungeon of torture. And yeah, I'm intrigued. That cover alone screams to me, you know, awesome horror. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Next up is 10 Rillington Place. This cover looks super creepy to me as well. I'm not familiar with this one, but it's about a true life crime drama about a British serial killer named John Christie. And you've got a good cast in here: Richard Attenborough and John Hurt and Judy Geeson. So yeah, serial killer. Down for that. It looks, from the synopsis on there, it looks pretty good. So next up is a two film noirs coming up. This one right here, directed by Otto Preminger, who did Anatomy of a Murder and Laura, both fantastic films. And this one I haven't seen before, but I'm looking forward to it just because he's done some great work in the past directorial-wise. And it stars Gene Tierney and Dana Andrews, and it's basically about a police officer who kills somebody and tries to cover it up. And right there, from 1950. And then, yeah, this this has audio commentary with a film historian, Eddie Mueller. And I want to say, I think all of these are limited to 3,000. Trying to find on here as far as, yeah, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, 3,000, and I believe this was 3,000 too. Sometimes they switch it up and there's limited to like 3,500 or something like that, but they're all limited to 3,000. Once they go out of print, they definitely rise up in price as well. This one I have seen the big heat. I believe this is actually a re-release from them in the coffee pot scene. Actually, there's two coffee pot scenes that are very pivotal to the movie. And one of the things that I always remember about this movie, that I loved about this movie, were the strong female leads. I love the wife in here, and I love the other character right here, the other girl, and she was just phenomenal in her performance. And this is directed by Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang, one of the best directors out there ever. Very influential. Stars Glenn Ford, who was fantastic. And you also have, oh my gosh, why is Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin was in here too. But this is basically about a police officer trying to find a killer and getting caught up with a mob boss. And there's a scene in here with his wife that just really surprised me, especially for this time. This is from 1953. That must have been really shocking. This is definitely a very strong film noir that I would highly recommend. The big heat right there. And so there we go. There are the Blu-rays and CDs and cassettes. I never thought I'd be doing a cassette update, but I'm actually looking forward to hearing this conversation right there. So very cool. Lakeshore Records, check them out. And also too, I wanted to say, I got Cherry Falls from the website blu-raysforeveryone.com. So check them out. I'll put the link down below. Again, great site for collectors. They sell digital codes, slipcovers, steelbooks, Blu-rays, DVDs, great deals, independently run. So I would definitely recommend checking them out. And again, like I said, if you're a collector, you'll definitely appreciate their site. So there you go. They're my pickups. Again, let me know if you've seen any of them or listened to any of them. And I hope everybody's doing well. Take care.